University of Eastern Philippines College of Arts and Communication. This is The Filipino Struggle in Literature, a content analysis of EFREN ABUEG'S Mapanglaw ang Mukha ng Buwan and Ang Kamatayan ni TIYO Samuel using dialectical materialism. The presenters are Monica Lorraine F. Dolfo, Princess Yana E. Liguidliguid, April Shine B. Roncales, AB Literature 2.
I will be presenting the introduction of this study. Philippine literature serves as a powerful, unfiltered mirror of social and class conflicts, utilizing social realism to translate lived contradictions into a defiant narrative form. Within this tradition, EFREN ABUEG'S emerges as a pivotal voice whose works act as living commentaries on the long-standing struggles against colonialism and the plight of the underprivileged. Despite his recognized contributions, existing scholarship often overlooks the specific dialectal tensions, the clash between opposing material forces that drive his storytelling. This research addresses that gap by applying dialectical materialism to critique how ABUEG'S narratives problematize the material conditions of their time, moving beyond simple thematic summaries to reveal the systematic inequities embedded in the text. The objectives of the study utilizes dialectical materialism to analyze EFREN ABUEG'S Mapanglaw ang Mukha ng Buwan and Ang Kamatayan ni TIYO Samuel, focusing on how they reflect specific historical and material conditions. It examines the characters' underlying struggles as mirrors of social reality to understand how socio-economic environments fundamentally shape literary narratives. Ultimately, the research seeks to bridge existing scholarly gaps by demonstrating the link between literature and the material structures of society.
The RRL are arranged through sectioning in accordance with the study's objectives. Abraham applied a Marxist lens to Filipino short stories to reveal systemic exploitation and economic disparities, particularly when class and ethnicity intersect. The study concludes that literature can be used to grasp real world social structures and advocate for social change. San Jose demonstrated that Filipino fiction acts as a socio-political archive where class conflicts and socio-economic oppression are direct registers of lived realities. His work reinforces the idea that literary narratives mirror the pressures and contradictions faced by the marginalized during specific historical periods. Tata de Espinosa Tata de Espina explored the stories of F. Sionel Jose to show how characters' moral decisions and frustrations are inextricably linked to social hierarchies and cultural expectations. Their findings confirm that individual struggles in literature are never detached from broader structural and ideological forces. The struggles and realities of major characters. Althusser argued that ideology functions through interpellation, where individuals are held into specific social roles, often without realizing their own subjection. He categorized literature as a cultural ideological state apparatus that actively participates in reinforcing or contesting the ruling class worldview. Williams, on the other hand, introduced cultural materialism, viewing literature as an active form of human labor and material production rather than a passive reflection of the economy. His concept of the structure of feeling highlights literature's unique ability to express emergent social experiences before they become formalized ideologies. Gatcho and De Lorino analyzed F. Samuel Jose's stories as ideological sites where class tensions and power relations are narratively encoded. Their study illustrates how fiction participates in shaping reader consciousness, while articulating both dominant ideologies and the cracks within them. The last section, the material and economic shaping of literature. Su concluded that Marx's theory shifted literary research towards social analysis by emphasizing the link between a text and the social historical context. This approach uncovers underlying social contradictions, moving the understanding of literature beyond the text itself. Talior and Talim suggested that Marx's theories provide authentic historicity to literary analysis by focusing on collective meaning making rather than isolated products. They argue that literary emphasizes the sociality of human life in opposition to systems that prioritize individuals. Eagleton stated that literary production and social superstructures do not always align perfectly and that literature should be studied through the material disparities that produced it. He suggested that social contradictions are often visible within texts as unresolved conflicts. Lukács refined the idea that art reflects the ruling class by arguing that literature also incorporates the writer's perception of reality. He posited that a writer's creative output is fundamentally shaped by their surrounding environment and the ongoing class struggle. Guillermo emphasized that social realism in Philippine literature emerges from an author's direct engagement with material realities and social inequalities. This perspective views literary themes as products of social conditions rather than purely aesthetic concerns. Hedman and Seidel noted that post war Philippine literature was specifically shaped by agrarian inequality, class tensions, and neo-colonial pressures. Their work aligns with dialectical materialism by asserting that economic conditions and the conflicts they generate essentially dictate cultural production.
The methodology of this study utilizes qualitative content analysis and the framework of dialectical materialism to analyze Efren Abwig's short stories as reflections of the Philippines' semi colonial and semi feudal history. By integrating Jose Maria Sison's historiography, the study examines how material realities, such as land monopoly and resource scarcity, shape character actions and narrative structures across the Japanese occupation and to the transition to the American period. Ultimately, the methodology moves beyond simple themes to perform a latent analysis of how the literature superstructure is connected to the society's material and historical conditions.
I will be presenting the summary of the tables. In Table 1, the socio-political instability in Mapanglao ang mukha ng buwan. The characters' struggles reflect the breakdown of public services during the Japanese occupation, where survival necessitates dangerous, unregulated labor and gun running. The narrative illustrates a reality where marginalized individuals must navigate unequal power relations and systemic exploitation to maintain their self-worth in materially depleted society. In Table 2, Structural Pressures in Ang Kamatayan ni TIYO Samuel. This story captures deeper social hierarchies by linking colonial beauty standards and skin color prejudice to the broader oppression of the Filipinos. The conflict over land control and the eventual violent retaliation underscores the escalating class struggles and the demand for systemic reform against an elite-serving state. Table 3, Ideological Control and Interpellation using Althusser's Framework. The study shows how characters are held into accepting exploitative condition as a primary obviousness due to their dire material needs. This process of interpellation, seen in the acceptance of death and patriarchal marriage norms, reinforces the ruling class worldview through the ideological state apparatus of the family and the economy. Table 4. The narratives capture the structure of feelings by expressing the inarticulate emotional burden of sacrificing morals for survival before these feelings formalize into political ideology. The protagonist's aspiration for economic independence through a machine represents an emergent sensibility that challenges the dominant hegemony and signals a longing for a reality free from colonial control. Table 5. Historical and material shaping of literature in ABUEG'S stories are fundamentally structured by the post-war instability and poverty of the Philippines, proving that material conditions directly generate literary conflict. The works function as a form of social realism that critiques gender coercion and class struggles, acting as a vital expression of human life that actively challenges prevailing power structures. The interplay of the two contexts. Read together, the stories reveal the changes in colonial administration reorganized rather than dismantled exploitative relations, maintaining elite power over land and labor. Dialectical materialism traces this continuity, showing how the chaotic beauty of history and literature unfolds through the constant tension between historical forces and human actions. Transformation of form and resistance. This research highlights a shift in narrative form from subdued endurance in wartime to direct rupture in the post-war era as material conditions changed. While survival in the first story demands silent submission, the stabilized disposition in the second allows anger to accumulate, demonstrating how literary structure and social response both transform alongside evolving material realities. In conclusion, EFREN ABUEG'S narratives are not mere artistic artifacts, but living register of the Philippines' persistent class struggles and material contradictions. By situating human choices within the limits of resource scarcity and land monopoly, the stories demonstrate how characters' actions, whether quiet submission or violent rupture, are conditioned by the historical reality rather than personal moral failure. This study highlights the agency is constantly negotiated against a backdrop of colonial residues and the absence of protective state institutions. Ultimately, these works serve as both witness and warning, reflecting socioeconomic inequities that continue to echo in the contemporary Filipino life. This depth of analysis underscores the necessities of literary criticism that remains historically accountable and sensitive to unresolved social conflicts.